Here we are today. We've been joined very kindly by Max Davies from Crestron. Max, how are you?
I'm really good. I'm very glad to be here. This is very exciting.
Well, we're very glad to have you as well, especially for our inaugural podcast.
Yes, no pressure at all.
No pressure.
No, absolutely not. Although if I set a really, really low bar, everything will improve from
If
here.
you could do that, that would make my job easier as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. We'll crack straight into it then, Max. So, you've been in and around this industry for quite some time now, certainly longer than I have. So forgive me if there are any naive questions that come from me today, but I'm here to learn as well. He says that's just my immediate cop-out from any intellectual conversation.
That's a good caveat.
So I think, topic on everyone's mind is just the general workplace transformation discussion. There is so much going on right now. What's the world looking like from your perspective?
It's looking very, very exciting, I think, is the way that we start off with that. The great thing is that as we kind of sit in front of each other in, sort of end of 2023, we've seen at least 10 years worth of change in about sort of 4 or 5 years, which is really, really exciting. When before COVID happened, and it's almost a distant memory now, but before COVID happened, everybody was talking about how the world was going to change and how we were going to modify our workplace practices and all those type of things. And, the embryonic sort of ideas were there. We had the early starts of Teams and Zoom, and we had activity-based working. We had all of those things were starting to sort of be a real thing. But I don't think anybody really actually had the science to back up if any of it actually really kind of worked or was needed rather than wanted. I think that's all of it came to. But then, of course, sort of COVID hit and, all the stuff that we know now. But then we started to adapt very, very quickly. And so we've seen things like, going home. We've seen, changes mode of operation in terms of the way that we work. We've seen technology having to change really, really quickly. And that's the exciting bit, I think, is because at no other time in recent history we've ever seen technology change so quickly. I think even I would go so far as to say it would take a world war to make technology advance as quick as COVID did.
Yeah.
And we owe a lot to, to those type of events to sort of push us forward as a civilization.
It's like the necessity mother of invention situation.
It is. That's exactly right. And I think everybody sort of came together. Now we've got this wonderful mode where we're kind of in, oh crap, we don't know what we're doing now. And, we're at this brave new frontier. There's so many things that need to change, but we're not quite sure what the future holds for us. But what is exciting is I think there's an acceptance now that nobody is an expert and that everybody is learning as they go. And I think that's a very heartwarming place to be so that we can do all of that. But the good news is, look, we've seen simplification of technology. We've seen standardization. We've seen people like Microsoft and Zoom have really dragged the kind of technology journey to a point where we have now a level of expectation that can be delivered on fairly easily. We know what to expect when we go into a meeting room now. If somebody came to you, I don't know, say 3 years before COVID and said, we're going to do a video call, you wouldn't know what to expect. It would be very, very different to now. And you probably wouldn't have even felt comfortable in front of that camera. Now, sure, whatever.
And household names now as well. Again, 3-4 years ago, well, if you'd have polled people, how many people would have actually heard of Zoom? 50%, something like that, maybe. I mean, in our industry more so, but just general population. And now it's becoming the name for the activity.
Well, it's becoming ubiquitous. It's like Hoover for vacuum cleaners and that type of thing, isn't it? I'm going to get on a Zoom call, and I like that because it's part of our normal life. And it just much like we've adopted things like mobile phones and those type of things, we've just got to a point now where it's kind of a natural mode of operation for us. So that's really good. And again, I love the fact that we kind of know what we're getting. We know where we're aiming for now. And I think there's a better definition of what success looks like in our industry, I think. Now, we haven't found all the answers, but we kind of know roughly where that direction is going now.
Yeah, it feels like we've got a bit of a true north now.
Yeah, exactly.
So how is that affecting what you do then with, I mean, you probably can't talk too much about roadmaps, but in terms of strategy and how the pivot conversation is on everyone's tongue, do we need to move to suit the needs of our end users or our customers, or do we need to get ahead of them and because we know what's coming next now?
Yeah, look, really, really good question. I think There is always going to be a place for a manufacturer or for an organization to drive technology with innovation. That is just the way the world changes.
Sure.
You know, you've got we wouldn't be sitting here if certain inventions hadn't manifested and we learn how to adopt them. There is often, I feel, a challenge, and this is not just AV and collaboration world, but there's a challenge around: are we using the technology for the sake of technology's sake, or good, we can, but do we need to, type of question.
Exactly,
and it's those sort of things that we sort of genuinely will ask our clients to say, look, and hey, we're guilty of this too. We've got a lot of really cool toys that we're making for you. We're solving technology problems every day for you. But we do often have to sometimes place an embryonic idea in somebody's environment to say, we think this is a tool that can solve a problem for you, and here's why. Can you investigate that? I think there is a level of responsibility that the technology manufacturers and inventors and even suppliers and owners need to have to say, are we doing this for the right reasons? Are we genuinely solving a problem? I mean, if we look at, for example, organizations that we deal with at the moment, I mean, we see that the adoption of technology, the move to hybrid work, all these type of things, they've been done for lots of reasons. But, is that because you want to change company culture? Is it because you want to retain staff? Is it because you want to provide a better quality of life for your employees? Or is it just because you're moving buildings and somebody gave you some money? Why are you doing all of that? And that changes globally as well. I mean, what we deal with in Australia and New Zealand, for example, is we have a very, very highly paid, highly trained workforce and not enough of them. You go to different regions and people they're treated very differently because, hey, if you don't want to do it, somebody else will. Yeah. So, I think it's a geographic discussion we have to have around how organizations are approaching this as well. We're very lucky in this region that we're often the petri dish of experimenting, and we can get away with a lot more here. We really can. We spend more on technology, more on construction. It's a cool place to be.
We should be leading the world, shouldn't we?
We do. And I think if you ask any technology manufacturer, and certainly Crestron would admit this as well, is that the amount and the volume of and the quality of technical queries that come out of this sort of region. We did a job recently with a large international firm, and they found stuff that our hardware did that nobody else in the globe had found. Right. And yes, there was a few red faces. It's like, oh crap, we didn't know that. But it's wonderful when, in a true sense of partnership, and I will say this organization is a true partner of ours, they actually came to us and said, we need you to fix this. This is not an expected behavior. Sure. Thank you for letting us know. We'll be back to you very shortly. And we did, and we fixed it. It was a great, great experience to do.
So we've got this world now we've set up and enabled through partially because we were forced to do so through COVID, as you were just talking about, where we've got hybrid work, and we've made it very easy for everybody to be anywhere they want to be now. Yeah. What sort of impact are you seeing that now on workforces that are trying to return to work, and specifically in the world we're moving in at the moment in AV? Yeah,
the return to work, it's an interesting place.
It's still polarizing people, right?
It's massively polarizing, and I think that I've spoken to a few people about this, and it's my job to talk to people about this. There are driving forces that oppose. In reality, a lot of organisations, take it like an Atlassian, for example, who famously turned around and said, "We don't need you in the office anymore. That's absolutely fine. You just go and do what you need to do." But they're employing certain type of self-driven people who generally are kind of, project-based, doing what they need to do anyway, that type of thing.
Highly trackable in terms of results and outcomes and expectations.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I work in the account management, the sales side of the world and those type of things as well. And, to be frank, keeping track of salespeople is fairly easy because you give them a number, and if they don't hit it, then you tell them off. It's a very different thing. Now, but then when you've got the knowledge workers, you've got the ones who need to go, need to go to the office, or you've got the financial teams and the HR teams and those sort of people. They're the ones who've had to adapt to that. The studies are telling us at the moment is that the ones who are having to adapt the most are actually the managers, the ones who actually are responsible for these people, because generally speaking, people do adapt, but they adapt in their own ways. But how do you measure that, and how do you catch it good or bad as to whether or not they're sort of falling off that line. And
I agree.
That's the biggest challenge there as well.
I feel like that's developed some new skill sets as well, just from
Yes.
my personal experience of, some of that management layer that's never had to
Yeah.
adapt that are,
Yeah.
what they've been embedded with over 10, 20 years or so to this new,
absolutely, yeah.
almost like what an engineer would be used to working in an agile environment.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
say everything's transparent, everything's trackable.
It is.
Now you've got, marketing teams and creative teams and art, designers trying to work that way as well. I've seen personally a real challenge in that situation. But I wonder if it's for the better or, if it'll be short lived.
I don't think we can actually say if it's for the better or for the worse, because it is just
it's just new, right?
It is, and it's happening anyway. And I think a lot of forgive my cynicism, but a lot of people sit there and go, it shouldn't be like this and it should be like this. It's like, well, the plain truth is it's just happening anyway.
Yeah.
And the best thing we can do as any industry, or and certainly when we sit in this AV collaboration type service industry that we are, we need to adapt very quickly to make sure that we're providing the services to the clients who are adapting there. And the best thing we can really do is just keep track of what people are up to and try and see what they're doing.
I couldn't agree more. So we've had a lovely conversation so far, but I think I've got us off track on our questions. So I'm going to pull it slightly back towards towards a little bit more of a narrow focus, which is on me because I just love a talk. Especially when it's big thinking. So tech trends. So there's so many tech trends. We can probably going to have a longer conversation later about AI because that's a particular fan favorite at the moment.
Can you? Yeah,
absolutely cannot. I for one welcome our evil AI overlords when they arrive, just in case they're listening. But we'll come back to that later.
Skynet is
exactly,
coming,
yeah. So, what are you seeing? You're plugged into the industry. What's happening out there? What's coming? What's around the corner in terms of trends, or what specifically AV, I guess, or otherwise?
Yeah, I think. Look, the major trends I think are, dare I say, standardization. And I know that can be a really good thing or a really bad thing. But we used to kind of start the journey. If you imagine the scenario, you're talking to clients about, hey, we're going in this direction, we're moving buildings, we want to change our workplace experience and those type of things. Where do we start? And it used to literally be like, okay, what are you trying to achieve? Now it's kind of there's a preset amount of questions. Are you a Teams or a Zoom house, or are you a Cisco house? Are you thinking about remote workforce? Are you thinking about not? That's good. That in many ways that's good because we've got a kind of a baseline sort of operating model that we can kind of work from, and that's kind of good because it makes us more efficient. We talk about any kind of trends. Hopefully they're making us more efficient. AI will make us more efficient, and that's why it's there. So. But the other side of it is what we have to be really careful of is, and I mentioned it before about this whole business of we've got all these tools. We love this tool, we love that tool, we love this technology. We want to put all of this into an environment and we want to see how it comes out. That's great. But okay, what are you expecting out of it? Who's paying for it, and those type of things.
And back to what you were saying before as well.
Yeah.
Why? Are we doing this for the right reasons? Is it because we need to innovate? Is there an innovation department pushing this?
Well, let me give you a wonderful example of that. I think in this industry, for example, we have always done smart buildings. Always, right? You guys do it. We do it. There is a degree of, and it's a very quote unquote smart buildings thing. But the whole point is that we can mine data and we can do things with that data and we can make people's lives better with it and we can make people more efficient. Now, recently, people have started to care about that because previously, just because you could didn't mean anybody wanted it.
For sure.
So the conversation was always, I can provide you a smart building, I can monitor absolutely everything, I can do everything you want to do. And the response was, so what? Well, now we're in more technology, we are in less people, we have got a much more technology as a utility capability where the expectations are way off the charts now.
More conscious awareness of the situation as well.
Nobody has any patience for technology working anymore. My God, it's a sackable, killable offence
it has
right
to work,
now.
Yeah.
And so this whole technology as a utility, I think, has really started to change the way we get looked at. And most of us who, swim around this little industry that we're in, we're really kind of happy about that because we know we're important.
We're validated.
Yeah, we're really important. Pay attention for me, to God's sake. But and I remember, casting back to some stories, I think this was starting to change a number of years ago when as an example, and I worked with Paul and and various others in various projects over the years. And I remember doing one particular project with those guys where their property guy turned around to us and said, "Actually, we're now at a point where the technology in this building has ticked over that." Over 10% of project budget.
Right.
Now you're important to us. Now we have greater diligence around what we're doing. This is business critical stuff. And I think that's great.
Oh,
I think it's really good because we've always known it's important.
Yeah, so we've got, as you know, with our involvement in the education sector, we talk about this in the exact same terms with our education customers, in that everything they do is business critical.
Yes.
You were just talking about business criticality. So in a standard, in inverted commas, working space, even things like a bank and just a general meeting, you walk to a room, the room doesn't work, you move to the next room.
That's
if you're lucky enough to have those functions.
That's it.
In an education space with 1,000 students in a lecture theatre and another 2,000 dialed in, that is critical. That lecture has to work. Yeah. So it goes back to the point.
I mean, I don't know how true it is, but I do remember rumours going back years ago, back in my consulting days, when universities supposedly were under threat of being sued if the technology didn't work.
Wow,
I mean, again, I literally made that's not that somebody else may have made that up, but the whole idea is that, and we are genuinely at a point now when as an organisation we will regularly respond to security questions, to tender style questions and those type of things. And it's not just how many Ujimby flops and how many ports has your thing got. This is what's your security posture? How do you manage your security environment?
What's the 10 times failover?
This is it's really, really critical stuff. And the learning curve, can I tell you, is absolutely mental because most of us aren't fully equipped. I mean, I can certainly remember consulting and or representing a brand was very much a case of, hey, here's some good products. Would you like to use it? Can we integrate it into your environment? Now it's a case of, are we going to break your environment by putting this in?
Absolutely.
We need to be very sure that we're doing that.
100%,
and we've been wheeled in front of people that we would never have spoken to. I mean, I must talk to more security people than I've ever spoken to in my entire career.
This is what I was going to ask as well about, are you finding a lot more IT conversations now as well?
Incredible.
Because we certainly are.
It is. I mean, I'll show my age here, but when I'm an old broadcast guy, so broadcast existed in its own place, right? We did cameras, we did TV, but nobody cared. But in AV, certainly it was one of those elements of, it was so segregated. We had an AV LAN, we did our own thing, and we had 5 different types of cables that was run around, and maybe the AV guy did it, maybe the electrical guy did it. Now you ain't coming into that building unless you passed all of those measures, and the business criticality of it is there, and that people are satisfying themselves that your products are secure and enterprise grade. I mean, this used to be a marketing term, to be frank. It is now a critical
very real thing.
Enterprise grade is a thing. And at Crestron we're very lucky in that we have such a strong product that is enterprise grade. And I was lucky enough to have lunch with a client the other day who sat in front of me and said, the best thing about you guys is because we may not always like what you do, but we know you are secure and enterprise grade.
This is it.
That's perfect for us.
Especially
it's a
with
really
the
good
software situation as well. I mean, our partnership relationship is clear. We work with each other on a huge range of clients.
That's
actually,
right.
not just education sector. But we're seeing it become even more pivotal now, like almost to the point where the IT conversation is first now as well. We've been in a few conversations recently with potential new customers, and the dynamic has shifted. It's okay. First, you need to talk to InfoSec, then you need to talk to the IT team, and you need to talk to the engineer. But all the engineers are in the room. It used to be us. Fluffy sales and marketing people first.
But I think that's a reflection on the way that our clients have reorganized.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So I mean, I certainly do remember that collaboration, AV, whatever we might call it, was a product of either facilities or it was property. And generally, it was one of the two. Is that, we need some meeting rooms. There's a broad definition around what we do, and some organisations had some control over that. But now this is a critical business operation. And now what I actually am very excited, because I'd spent a lot of time in the property world, but the property and IT people have an equal seat at the table now. And they are consulting with each other. And they're also respectful of each other's space. That's a really key thing.
Absolutely.
We've all got stories about property and IT arguing with each other. I can genuinely tell you that we are friends with both of them now, and they both see our value. That's really cool.
Well, that's got to be one of the big wins out of the whole dynamic shift recently then. there's a lot more businesses now with a clearer idea, as we've just talked about, as to what they should be doing, what they can do, and what the options are available to them. Are people still making mistakes? Are some people getting this, terribly wrong still because they're stuck in a mindset?
They are. But I think one of the elements we have to sort of always respect here is that what we do on a day-to-day basis is not what these guys do. And, one of the values of using, trained professionals, consulting entities and, people that do this every day is that it is their bread and butter, and that's what they do. One of the hardest conversations, honestly, to have with a client who's starting down this journey is, hey, you absolutely are right that you have got some ambition to do these things, but please get some references and understand what the process is, because there is a process to follow. Even if you want to be innovative and do something that nobody else has ever done, you absolutely need to follow some degree of path that's tried and proven, because to be frank, otherwise you're going to waste time. There's, we don't do this on a day-to-day basis and just make it up and do it that way, because it is the way to go. So I do believe that there's still a resistance to seeking professional advice.
Yes.
And I think that's a real shame, because I remember having a tender interview years ago with a certain client who I will not name, who turned around, and I'd come off the back of some major clients, and I was told that thanks anyway, but we don't want to do what they do. We want to be innovative.
Right.
And my response was, we were innovative every time. But the point being is that there was a process to and look, we reside in an IT environment, in a construction environment, and those type of things. I think the other mistake that we're often sort of seeing as well is that never before have we seen the proliferation and the kind of the overt communication between brands selling into organizations. So it's everywhere, from LinkedIn to direct marketing to whatever it might be. People are so much more aware about what they can do, but again, should they?
Yeah.
And we often have conversations with clients go, that's a great idea, but is it tried? Is it tested? No, or not. So I think those still are the mistakes in there. But also, I think one of the biggest challenges still is moving too quickly. And I think that we're still working in environments where our timing is generally dictated by construction projects. One of my biggest bugbears is always, I still believe that technology standardization and implementation should not follow the trend of construction. And if you can imagine a graph which is, activity over time, it should be a nice curve. It should be nice, steady sort of rise. What we actually see are bumps, and those are construction projects. But you should be able to just sort of plot that course really nice and calmly. But we don't. So we've got 5 weeks to assemble an AV standard. It's going to be going out to tender, and it's going to be installed in a year. And go.
And away we go, yeah.
It shouldn't be like that. And I think I'm not alone in sort of thinking that. And I think this is one of those elements that I think we do need to still examine very closely as an industry, that we need to adapt, definitely. Our masters are the constructors and the landlords and those sort of people. But we need to have enough of a voice to say that you won't get a good result if you rush this process.
Does anything still surprise you about this industry?
I'm constantly surprised by how far we've come, and that's I think
it is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a very wholesome answer, isn't it? But we're sitting in a podcast studio, right, in front of technology that didn't exist 3 to 4 years ago.
Now everyone's got a podcast.
Yeah, and it's accessible and it's usable, and it's one of those things which I just think is fantastic. I'm surprised by how things just work these days, and I can almost imagine the people out there listening to this going, "Well, it doesn't work." It doesn't work. But it does. And think about where we were, right? We used to have to do every project bespoke. Every room was designed from individual bricks of stuff put together with different cabling and different programming and all this, that, and the other. We've now actually got a baseline. We know what we're after. A client can genuinely walk in and know what they want to do. From a recent technology perspective, I was just telling you earlier, we released our Connect adapter recently. It's the only product push I'll say is the fact that I can actually plug in a Crestron Connect adapter on Air Media, and it literally works. No drivers, no nothing. Yeah. That for me was a moment, because we've been talking about this for years. Imagine a scenario you can wirelessly connect something in a meeting room and don't have to worry about what it's connected to. Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
It's
it's
incredible.
the unreachable world that we've all dreamt about. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
right. And I think we're starting to see we're cashing in on those promises now. I think we're genuinely getting to a point where the technology has caught up with the ambitions. And
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's phenomenal. Again, because we've been pushed into it. Again, we keep going back to the pandemic and the situation, but it out of that has come some phenomenal innovation.
Absolutely.
And innovating for the sake of innovating, it seems to be going away now. That I worked in a business with an innovation department.
Yes.
And I won't name names or name and shame, but there was, I think, 12 people in that department, some of them quite senior.
Yeah.
And we were never really sure what they did, except for sort of dip in and out of various projects, one being a very large AV project.
Right.
We were looking at, and this is before the real birth of drones and certainly high-tech drones. We were trying to sort of get ahead of that curve in the sporting world and fly some drones over stadium. But the innovation team got involved, and then they needed 4 times the budget, and it needed to be stratospheric. And you think, well, okay, we just want some better pictures of the sports game that's going, that sort of thing.
I heard a great quote actually, a book that I'm reading at the moment, and it actually talks about innovation being a product of not only capability but time. And it gives a really good example of, say, take an example of a self-driving car. And I was talking about Teslas earlier on, but the point being is that the first idea of a self-driving car, I think, was kind of broached in the 50s, right? And the closest thing they had was taping a brick to the accelerator. Doesn't mean the idea was bad. It just meant that you had to consider the time aspect of this as well, because now we're genuinely at a point where a self-driving thing is happening. And I think that's the thing we all have to consider. Innovation sometimes has to be, it has to have a healthy dose of reality associated with it as well. And going on from that is that being bleeding edge has to come with some understanding that you are bleeding edge. And, I want, what's that wonderful sort of little sort of matrix of quick, better,
quick,
and
fast, good,
cheaper, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Innovation is a product of capability and time, and we all have to see how that all pans out. But we're seeing some real things starting to appear now that we could have only dreamed of 10 years ago. I mean, AI is exactly that. And, now that all of a sudden it lands on our lap and we say, okay, we've got AI, what does that mean to us? And now you've got Microsoft running around saying, they're talking to businesses and saying, we've created this product. Look at what it can do. But hey, what do you want it to do? That's a fantastic part to be in, the place to be in. It really is. We have an ability to say, we've got this thing and we don't even really understand what it's capable of doing. But here's your opportunity to input into a product that's going to literally change the way the world works. Yeah. That's fascinating.
It's huge. It's a big part of our philosophy as well, as you know. We try. We've got the "Long Live the Users," which is a Tron reference for those of a certain age. But we try to be, not just use it as a marketing device. We say to ourselves daily, what would the user do here? What does the user want? And then we ask them, and say so. In a similar vein, is this the right experience for the end user, or have they just been forced into this environment or forced into this experience by a different business owner or a different business department? I've long been a believer that that's not how it should work. I do
love still. I'm from a consulting background, and I still loved the pure consulting elements of user journey mapping and those type of things, and persona mapping and those type of things, and taking the time and the trouble to go, to build a persona. This person goes to work every day. They need to do this type of job, and they have these expectations, and this is their knowledge base, and this is what they need to achieve. How do we map them into our environment? I get the feeling a lot of that stuff isn't done as much as
I
it
get
should,
the same feeling,
because it tends to be one size fits all. And I think, unfortunately, we do that. The downside to standardization, coming back to that question as well, is that I think sometimes we can be guilty of going, oh, we'll just do that because it works. That's okay. We do need to stop and go, is that suitable for us?
Good to have a benchmark, as you said before, but everything should still be considered.
And and again, the best quote I've read all week is, strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat.
I love that.
And I just love that.
The best ones are the ones that resonate immediately, aren't they? And that certainly does. Okay, so I hinted earlier that I, for one, welcome our AI overlords.
Yes.
They're on the way, so it's best we get in with them now.
Put it on record. Welcome. Welcome.
I've even started saying please to Google at home, if I'm honest, which my partner has been doing for years, and she used to joke actually saying, "I'm just being nice. You know, you never know what's going to happen."
You never know, and if they come at you and say you weren't nice, eventually,
Exactly, yeah. So now it is very much. Could you please turn the lights on?
Yes, exactly.
So, say overnight while we sleep, which is when it will probably happen,
Oh, yes,
right?
yes,
They become
100%,
sentient,
yeah.
and all of a sudden we get up tomorrow morning and AV can talk.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing it's going to say to us?
Well, when it stopped crying, it will say, "I'm so misunderstood."
Yeah.
I still think that we're in a really good place, and the direction is going in the right direction. And and we're all paying our mortgage on working in this industry, so hey, we don't want it to be fixed that quickly. But the reality of it is, I think that we are still the victim. We're pulled between different masters. We've got the IT masters, we've got the property masters, we've got the ownership masters, we've got the innovation masters, and I think somewhere in all of that, poor Mr. or Mrs. AB gets very misunderstood, and I think that's the challenge. Part of that misunderstanding, I think, is where you guys do so well, is that it's to give a really terrible analogy, is you've got to figure out why your baby's crying. And this is the challenge: is it not working because it wasn't set up to work? What's that fantastic quote? Is that you can't judge success by a fish's ability to climb a tree.
Yeah.
The right technology for the right place, and the giving these things a chance to really shine.
Frameworks, yeah.
Something as simple as, and I'll name and shame here, the defects liability period,
Right? Yeah.
Construction projects, right? That is a historic thing that's probably born of a 1920s or so contract from construction that is basically there to ensure that defects in the construction of a project are managed under warranty. We're still relying on defects liability for a lot of AV projects. The management a year after when that starts. And here's the thing, right? So now everything that you're putting into the environment is sitting on the network. It's got several different software layers, several different software licensing, different different owners, different management tools, this, that, and the other. And we're still not putting a proper framework around that. That's quite crazy. That's quite crazy. Some organizations are. Some organizations think about it. But I still think that's why poor little AV is misunderstood, because it doesn't really get a chance to have a good say about how well it can do and those type of things.
I wonder what it will design for itself.
Yeah, probably a quiet life, I reckon.
Probably, yeah.
Quiet life.
Just shouting, unplug me.
Exactly. Yeah, I just want to
Which I agree with as well, because I'm not a fan of cables still. For me, we've still got too many cables in the world.
Yeah. But see, a cable exists as one of those reasons that we need for reliability.
Exactly,
and that's the thing. So we're still in this, going back to, poor old AV, it wants to run. But occasionally it falls over, and then every time it falls over, somebody's laughing at it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got to put it in the right environment to allow it to grow.
100%.
My comments around AV standards and designing them was always, and I love my terrible analogies. You've just realised this.
I love it myself.
AV standards are like a pot plant. You have to take it from inception. You have to put it into a pot, and you have to water it and feed it, and then it gets bigger, and you have to repot it, and you have to allow it to grow.
Sure.
Sometimes we don't repot our technology.
We don't.
And the poor little roots are being constricted and they can't do anything there. So
that's a good one.
That was doing.
It's a good one to end on, I think. Max, Davies, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure as always, and we look forward to hopefully destroying you at Fuzzball a little bit later as well.
Awesome. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Neil. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No worries. Cheers.